Okay, let's go ahead and let's scratch this. We'll remove those particles that we made. And let's go ahead and let's delete some of these objects. And let's get a new setup here. We're going to go ahead and this time we're going to use a matter waves to create some particles. Matter waves need some connections there. You can see we're still invalid. Even though we can't see the required input, this geom instance needs a particle input. If we right click and say visible needed, it will tell us that that particle needs to be connected. And let's go ahead and we're going to select that object and we're going to say not renderable, because all we want to use it for is borning particles on. We're going to pick that object-based emitter right there. We're going to go ahead and set his speed to 0. We'll set his pistol shot. Right now that's going to be too many for us. So what let's do is say per emitter. We're going to have one particle per emitter. And we're going to modify the number of emitters being used. Let's say a 2 by 2. We'll create, of course, a total of 4. Or we can modify these around here. Let's create some more there. Now this is all pretty jumbled up. Let's go ahead and look at something here. Geom instance has a scaling section where we can determine how to size it. The original size, of course, is just whatever the object size is. There's also the box normalize, which will take the existing object, look at his size in units, and treat that as a size of 1. That's best to experiment to kind of see how it works. And then we have the normalized size, which is probably the best way for us to go ahead and shrink those particles. Basically what will happen is with a normalized size of 1, oops, it's way too big. And let's go ahead and we'll run that up. Now we have these guys at a pretty decent size. Let's go ahead and render just to see what we've got. And you see those green dots are the GI being calculated. And of course they're all pulling the original source material there. Now let's say we want to actually vary the material of all these particles. What we're going to want to do is select our source geometry, and it's using this material here. What we're going to do is we're going to use a diffuse map, and included with thinking particles are 2 extra maps. One of them is called TPVarTexMap, and the other one is just a TPTextMap. TPTextMap is used with the paint operator whenever you're going to have a particle hit another object and create a paint marking on it. We're going to take a look at that in a separate video. So for now, we really want to focus on the TPVarTexMap. This is what's going to allow us to set a color, or pick a color, and then define a certain amount of variation to apply to that, as well as a random seed. As well, you can actually also pick an additional submap, and it will apply a color variation to that and use it for individual particles. Now the first thing that we'll go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and just hit render, and you can see we get kind of a bunch of funky looking noise in here. Well, there's something special that we have to do when we want to use this TPVarTexMap. Both the geom instance and the standard shape have an extra input called Vertex Color, which is where we can assign a color to the actual vertices of that mesh. And we're going to go ahead and make that connection to the born particle. And now if we go ahead and actually, you know what, let's go ahead and we'll disable the global illumination and some of the other items. And we don't need motion blur either. So let's actually zoom in here now. Remember our last render had a bunch of colored noise on it, and now when we go ahead and render, what we'll see is very distinct and separate solid colors. So just remember, if you're going to use the TPVarTexMap, you're going to want to make this connection from the born particle to the vertex color inputs. Okay. So let's go ahead and progress here. Actually, we'll just do a quick switch. We'll turn off the geom instance, turn on the standard shape, and you can see those guys got really big, so we'll enable the size as well, and we'll decrease those. And now, because we also have Vertex Color assigned to standard shape, but you know what? He's using this other material. Let's take a look at that. Oops, that's not gonna need a little more viewing space. Drop that in there. Okay, you know what? It is using the TPVarTexMap. The Max window's a little too small for that, but anyway, now we'll go ahead and render, and we should get again unique colors pretty much on each one. One of the things we can do, of course, for the TPVarTexMap is set the range, the percentage range from this color that we want to modify. So 100% color variation. Let's go ahead and, you know what, maybe it's not binding, tracking that update. We'll go ahead and drop that back in there. And now, of course, we get all those strong colors. So we get the full range. And then let's go ahead and also modify the saturation. So color saturation is going to get changed. And let's do value variation as well. And of course, there's also the random seed we can modify to create a whole different set. And then alpha variation to change alpha values. Okay. We're going to change this down a little bit. We don't want too strong of a change. And let's take a look at something else that we can do. We'll go ahead and create another dynamic set. We're going to affect the all particles at first, and we're going to pull from the material category. Here you can see three different operators. We've got material time, which is going to control a material, how a material is animated on a particle over time. And then we've got shape material, which is actually the one that we want to take a look at right now. And then there's also paint. Paint is for using particles to paint another object, including other particles. Okay, but what we can do here is say, we'll go ahead and drag this yellow material into the shape material slot. And what we've got now is we've got a first rule that says, okay, matter waves create a bunch of particles, give them the standard shape, and the standard shape has this material applied. In the next rule, we're saying, okay, all particles, now I want you to use this material. And you can see that automatically gets set. We can do something here where we'll go ahead and expose the age parameter, use a condition threshold. We're going to expose the on input for shape material. And we want the age, once the age reaches a value of 10, to go ahead and then we're going to start using this shape material. So this is how we can use parameter, detect if that's been, detect if it's true, and then control whether or not this other operator goes into effect. So here from 0 up until 9, we're going to have kind of a color palette that looks like this. And even here at frame 9, we'll see the same result because the particles have not turned 10 yet. But once we do get to frame 10 and the particles turn 10, you'll see that they all now, this rule becomes true, and they get this new yellow material assigned to them.